So this one will be, I guess, a user or listener submitted, but it's bipod or pack, I guess, usage for field shooting. And then when it comes to the bipod, it's, pan or not pan, features, etc., stuff like that. So basically we have a couple of, let's say, factors here. So one is precision, like what's the difference in precision group size between shooting from a bipod and shooting from a backpack. And that's both on the range and in the field. The other is precision as it relates to being neutral behind the gun, so straight line recoil. Torque, panning, so that's panning target set left to right. Cant, which is fixing the cant during angles. Speed and overall usage. So let's start with a thought, which is, if something isn't required to do a task, it's not required to do that task, to accomplish that task, then it is an unnecessary burden liability that's generally only going to result in a lower success rate. We'll come back to that. So pure precision. So let's say at a range. And when I say off a backpack, I mean a backpack with something in it, and especially, not that, this isn't trying to get you to buy anything, and I hate saying it because I don't want to give Jake and Ryan credit, but the Molinator, that little pack or front bag, you could use it as a rear bag, but it's really a front bag, strapped to the pack, and it sits there in this like open U shape with a flat bottom. The difference in precision on a flat range is either none whatsoever per practice trained people, or it's not functionally different for field shooting. So it's on the order of, if you could shoot a 30-round group at 1.2 MOA, which is phenomenal shooting from a bipod on the range, proned out, grassy range, you might be 1.3 or 1.4 from a backpack. That's about as worst as we see is about a quarter MOA, or as bad as we see is about a quarter MOA. In actuality, once somebody practices, there's no difference. It's not that difficult to practice to shoot 10-round groups at sub 1 MOA consistently with a gun that's capable of that. So the difference in precision on a flat range is really academic. It doesn't change anything. The difference in hunting is measurable. It's marked when you see enough shooters using the two, bipod versus backpack, consistently. And the reason isn't because of stability, because that's what everybody thinks. Oh, the bipod is stable. And it is relatively stable. It holds the rifle for you, but there's more to shooting than just stability. So being neutral behind the gun. So the gun wants to recoil straight to the rear. And if you introduce any kind of torque or angle into the gun, it no longer is going to recoil straight to the rear. It's going to pop or hop or jump to one side, up or down. So we want to be, the overall goal is to be straight and neutral behind the rifle, so the rifle recoils straight to the rear with minimal muzzle rise, and you spot your impact or splash, the hit, through the scope. The things that cause an issue with this in the field is torque, panning, and cant of a bipod. All the things that people want, or most people want in a bipod, really makes missing or bad shots more likely. So when we look at torque is related to the neutral part. That means like the rifle is naturally pointed in a direction, and then to follow a moving animal, or because we didn't align ourselves properly, we have to muscle the gun, that is push or pull the rifle, the back end of the rifle, to align it with the target. When the gun fires, you and the rifle want to come back to the neutral state. So it wants to come off of target. That affects spotting your hits or impacts or misses, and it affects precision, where that round goes. So you get a quote unquote flyers. There's no such thing as flyers, but you get a round that doesn't go where it's supposed to go. Torque is caused because the bipod is attached to the rifle. It's related to pan. So panning is moving straight left or straight right. So a bipod and a rifle are going to recoil neutrally when the bipod feet are perfectly perpendicular to the barrel line, to the axis of the bore. So they make a right angle cross. If we pan, so we set up and an animal moves, or we don't get set up correctly and we have to pan to the left or right, we've now introduced an angle of the bipod relative to the muzzle. That is an inconsistent recoil interference. So when the gun goes bang, it wants to align itself or hop or move in a direction other than straight to the rear. It catches or pops or hops. That's not good. Cant is the same way. So cant is I'm shooting and I've got the hill is higher on my left and lower on my right, or vice versa, or any version thereof. And I rotate the gun to get the reticle and the gun vertical on a sloped surface. Well, that bipod, for most bipods, are attached to the bottom of the gun. They're under the rifle. So the pivot point is above, the pivot point is below the barrel. As soon as we cant the bipod by using the cant feature and not the legs, so the legs are no longer directly under the gun, we've now introduced an angle of attachment from the bipod to the rifle. Again, when the gun recoils, it's going to recoil in a manner that's not straight to the rear, and it hurts you in spotting your own impacts and hits and misses. You can visualize this as if you were shooting on a straight wall, a vertical wall to your left, and you rotated the bipod on its cant feature till it was touching the wall on the left and you're shooting vertical, so the bipod's coming straight off the gun or at a slight angle. As soon as the gun goes bang, it pops away from the surface. We don't have any real way to keep the gun from popping to the right for a right-handed shooter except body position. But on that angle, we can't get behind the gun like that. So it makes the bipod and the gun hop away from the surface or jump away from the target line. So we don't see our spot or impacts. Now, this is much less of a concern with extremely well-designed bipods, underslung bipods. So the original Sako TRG bipod, where the pivot point of the legs are at the barrel line or slightly above. So the rifle is underslung in the bipod. It's in like a U shape. That when you rotate it, you still keep it much more in line with the pivot point. So it's a lot less of a problem. So cant in that regard is not as much of a problem. But in the traditional bipods that mount under the rifle, a cant feature, it should be very, very minimal or not at all. The best way to do cant is to adjust the leg length of the bipod. So one leg is shorter than the other, so the bipod is vertical, the stud is vertical, and the mounting system is vertical with the rifle. Everything is in line for better recoil control. And by recoil control, I mean that straight neutral recoil path. So this brings us to speed. Speed is a big thing. There's some group of people that want to say that speed, especially in anything that's distance related, has no factor, that you don't shoot over a couple of 100 yards quickly. I don't know what their version of quick is. I know in measuring with timers, hundreds and hundreds of shooters and seeing hundreds and hundreds of animals killed, that speed is a factor and people are way slower than they think they are, just like they're way less accurate, quote unquote, or precise than they believe they are. Speed is always a factor. They're living animals, they move. So it's springtime, spring bear. Bear, unless they're being baited, never stop moving, or that's my limited experience with them. They're always moving, they're always feeding. They chomp, 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 move, chomp, 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 move. Well, that's a moving target. So now, if we go into being neutral behind the gun, the torque is correct, the pan is correct, and the cant is correct on a bipod, we have the bipod fixed on the front of the rifle that we have to adjust. The rear, so for elevation, to an extent, is primarily controlled by the rear, whether it's a bag, your hand, or your bino harness, or some other rest under the rear. So When we look at the difference here, so I'm on a slope, it's kind of rocky or it's broken terrain, there may be sticks. I see the bear across the canyon on another slope or meadow feeding right to left. I lay down. I've got to adjust the legs of the, first off, I've got to pull the legs down or attach the bipod to the rifle. I've got to adjust the legs so the gun is vertical from the bipod, in relation to the bipod. Then I have to make sure that it's straight and neutral. So the bipod is perpendicular to the rifle and the rifle is parallel with the target. Then I have to make sure my body is parallel. I have to make sure that if the animal, I have to make sure that the feet are on relatively stable ground. So there can't be loose gravel under 1 foot. There can't be sticks under 1 foot, one leg of the bipod. That has to be in firm ground, whether it's both on rock that's hard and stable or soft dirt. So there's a variability. What is the ground that the bipod is resting against? If the target moves, as in moving left to right or right to left, the whole system has to be rebuilt every time. Now you can get away with a certain amount of error. So you can get away with a certain amount of torque, a certain amount of pan, a certain amount of cant. But they start stacking very quickly to getting wild shots. So if that thing is at any kind of real distance, you need to reset that whole system back up again to get neutral. And it just keeps happening as the animal moves, right? Your position gets worse and worse. Now let's juxtapose that over top of using a backpack. I drop the backpack down perpendicular to the target. I put the rifle on top of the backpack or in the little V created by the Molinator. I control the rifle. The backpack is on the ground. It doesn't move. I can cant freely because the bag is soft. There's no torque being put into the gun. I can pan freely because the bag is soft. There's no torque being put into the gun. The only thing that has to change is my body relationship to the rifle and the target to keep them in line. I move up the hill. I move down the hill on that slope, or flat, same way. The rifle doesn't care where it's being rested because as I rotate the rifle, if it's on a slope, it's just finding a new vertical. Everything is fine. This is obvious when you go out and shoot. And it shows up in the hunting rifle drill that's on Rock Slide that we do, that's positional and time-based. So it's an interesting thing. It's a 20-shot drill. Carl Ross came up with it. We modified it a little bit to match better what we were seeing in the field. So every animal we kill or shots we could have taken or should have taken and lost opportunity, we try to write down the animal, the distance, the time, the positions, like the whole, everything that was involved in that. And then we can go back and compare people's performance on animals to their performance on the hunting rifle drill. And the way it's written out is it's almost a 1-for-1. And there's a level where you stop seeing people missing opportunities. And that's when they're about 12 to 15 out of 20. Above 15, there doesn't seem to be much difference. Below, 12, there's a lot of difference. And it's an interesting thing because you shoot 2 offhand shots at a 7 MOA target, 2 seated unsupported at a 5-inch target, 2 seated supported with a backpack or hiking sticks or something at a 3.5-inch target. This is all going from memory, and 2 prone from a 2-inch target. Now, this is 2-inch target at 100 yards, so MOA. This should be easy. Everybody can hit this all day long. The number one most missed shot in tens of thousands of rounds at this with hundreds of shooters is offhand. The second most missed shot is prone. It's a 2 MOA target, and the interesting thing is the first stage is 2 shots at each untimed. There's no time limit here. The 2 most missed shots are offhand, so standing, unsupported, and prone. That's an interesting thing because it shouldn't be happening if people have a 0 and they know what they're doing and they're shooting half MOA or quarter MOA all day long rifles, but it happens and we track it. On the time portion, you have to go from pack on to down into the prone and fire 2 shots, whether you use the pack, leave it on your back, or use a bipod or whatever, in 20 seconds. From standing to prone, 2 shots in 20 seconds. Unless they're using a Harris bipod, nobody gets those 2 shots off in 20 seconds. Just getting the pack off going prone, dropping the legs of a bipod takes too much time. Most people don't get one shot off if they're using a bipod. So when we look at a speed difference between them, there's a very large and real speed difference between using a backpack and using a bipod. Precision difference, there's virtually none when practiced, and both have to be practiced. So it kind of comes back to the overall view of what I said in the beginning. If an item or a piece of equipment isn't required to accomplish a task, then choosing to use that item in most instances only complicates and adds failure points and training time to use it correctly. So we're looking at deer, sheep, antelope, big game, and we know that below about a minute and a half, group size hit rates don't change on 8 to 10 inch targets at range. I say we know. Using data in the WES and a lot of shooters, we see that. They don't change in the field below that. It is not difficult or that time sensitive, about a day, to teach people to shoot 1.5 MOA groups, MOA targets, so 10 plus rounds consistently in a 1.5 inch dot at 100 yards with a backpack. It's not required to have a bipod to shoot 1.5 to 2 MOA targets in the field. Therefore, introducing the complexity of a bipod, the lack of speed of a bipod, and all the potential errors that come in, that is not being neutral behind it, the torque that's incurred because of it, panning that's incurred, cant that's incurred, and then making sure the ground is stable and consistent under it. All of those factors make success rates of hits, especially at any kind of rushed speed, lower with a bipod than a backpack. It's why I and almost nobody we hunt with uses them on general purpose rifles. Having said that, there are a couple instances where bipods make sense. They could certainly be used all the time. You're compromising speed and precision. You're compromising in something when you use a bipod. You're not really compromising anything when you use a good backpack. So the times it makes sense is if you're not going to carry a backpack. I almost always carry a backpack because, especially with animals, a lot of shots seem to happen where there's grass too low for prone or obstacles too low for prone. And at medium range where rush shots or time is a factor, so about 60 to 70% of the opportunities we get on animals are kneeling or sitting using the top of a pack or other rest, and the pack is just the fastest thing to use to get a stable enough position to make a shot. So I always have the backpack, or almost always have the backpack, so it serves multi-function. I can shoot it prone, I can shoot it kneeling, I can shoot it sitting, I can use it for a multitude of rests. It holds my gear, etc. But if I was going somewhere that prone was consistently available, and I wasn't going to carry a backpack, then a bipod makes sense. When it comes to the bipods, even though it's not fashionable, when you look at the actual shooting and killing things, so that's time and precision and fussiness all combined, a standard Harris, 9 to 13 inch bipod or whatever that model is about the most useful. Get it with the cant feature so you can cant a little bit. But, the spring-loaded bipod legs, you push the button, the legs shoot out, hold the button, and you can adjust for height. That's much faster than most bipods on sloping ground. It's much faster to set up. You can put a string between the two legs, pull the string, both legs come down at the same time. Just from a speed and ease of use, there's not too many bipods I would rather use than a Harris. I have most bipods, and other than flat range work, I'm not really interested in them, or dedicated long range / extreme long range rifles. The Harris for general rifles is still, I don't think anybody's really beat it. If I was using a bipod and I wanted stability, the Sako TRG bipod is still one of the best field bipods made. Why somebody doesn't copy that design, I don't know. But the way it's designed is superior to almost all others for stability. The other instance where a bipod makes sense to me, and when we use them, my group uses them, is in dedicated long range or extreme long range rifles. That is, that rifle will be used for nothing but prone shooting at true long range, 800 plus and nothing else. It will never be shot from sitting. It will never be shot from kneeling or offhand or anything else. It is a dedicated prone shooting rifle. In that case, still a backpack and a bag on front, or just a backpack, works just fine. It's not hard. I have my ELR rifle is a 300 rum improved with a 34-inch barrel that's 1.25 inches in diameter the whole way, and a Macmillan bench rest stock. I shoot it off a backpack. When I do shoot it off a backpack, no problem. We were shooting 1,400 and 1,500 yards on 1.5 and 2 MOA targets last fall without issue, multiple people just resting on top of a backpack for a front rest. But if you're going to set up, I'm going to go to a canyon, shooting across canyon. The elk are going to come across the face across canyon at 9 or 1,100 yards. First, don't shoot animals at 900 and 1,100 yards. But you're going to do that. I'm going to set the rifle up. It's going to be an unbelievably stable shot. The animals are not going to be moving. There's no speed component to it, etc. Yeah, a bipod can make sense, right? Maybe I want to use my backpack for something else and speed doesn't have a factor. Sure, a bipod on that rifle works. So for me, that rifle is 14, 15, 16, 17, 20 pounds, big 30 cal, big 338. It's a dedicated long range gun only. It gets used for nothing else. As a general purpose hunting rifle, if I'm not going to carry a backpack no matter what, sure, a bipod could be useful, or it is useful. In that case, I will choose a Harris or that Sako TRG bipod, with the Harris being a better speed bipod. Otherwise, the backpack is a much better choice across the board with hit rates and at speed. When we set our standards, the speed thing is, I expect people within a day of practice to go standing with the pack and the rifle in their hand to prone and loading and hitting a 1.5 MOA target consistently. So that's 10 rounds in a row in around 10 seconds. I mean, we set it at a 10-second time limit. With a bipod that's not a Harris, that averages, to hit that target, that averages 20 to 30 seconds. When you add in variable terrain, so slopes, rocks, grounds, like the ground isn't perfectly grassy golf course, the difference gets even larger. The 10 seconds still remains for the backpack guys. Those same people using a bipod and trained on them are 20 to 30 seconds minimum, and they have far more wild shots that come out of it, or far more missed shots that they don't spot, or the impacts, the hits, or the misses themselves. So dedicated long range use, sure, a bipod makes sense. If I'm never going to carry a backpack, sure, the bipod can make sense. In that case, a Sako TRG bipod or a Harris. For general purpose, especially Western backpack use, all-around use, much more versatile, much more consistent, with much fewer errors to use a backpack. And I would highly suggest something like the Molinator strapped to the back of it. It just helps keep the rifle on slope centered. I think that answers most of the questions. If you guys have any more questions about bipods or pack usage or whatever, I guess submit the questions.